Napple Tale, Arzia and Daydream is an overlooked and forgotten game for the Dreamcast. A quick glance paints a picture of what kind of game it might be. It features bright colors, lighthearted, whimsical designs, and adorable creatures. But what if I told you that this game is about accepting your own death? That's right, this cute little fella here is to remind you that someday you're going to die. If you're just judging it based on how it looks, Napple Tale is a Deceptive game. It came out as a Japanese exclusive in the year 2000, and it had a very heavy focus on being designed for girls. In fact, what little information there is on the development of this game points out that the team that created it was purposely filled with primarily women to make sure that Napple Tale had a, quote, proper feminine sensibility. This intrigued me, because this means one of two things. The game is garbage shovelware that barely functions, or it is a masterpiece. This is how girl games operate, okay? Don't shoot the messenger. Unfortunately for Napple Tale, it was a tremendous flop. A few things contributed to this. Firstly, it came out in 2000 when the Dreamcast was already kinda dying. Secondly, it was very heavily marketed as a cutesy game while simultaneously being fucking depressing. Thirdly, there aren't very many girl games on the Dreamcast. It was typically dominated by games that appealed more to the masculine audiences. There's a very strong sentiment amongst Japanese articles about this game that it probably would have been a hit were it a Nintendo title. In the history of mankind, only a mere 7,000 total copies of this game are estimated to have ever been sold. That's bad. This is a tragedy. This game should be beloved. Come here, you want to know something cool about this game? The soundtrack was composed by Yoko Kanno, aka the woman that did the entire soundtrack for Cowboy Bebop and the themes for Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. And if that's not enough, also the Wolf's Rain soundtrack. That soundtrack hurts my feelings. The vocal performances of most of the songs and the main character are done by Maya Sakamoto, who has voiced a ton of major characters and provided vocals for many themes. What I'm saying is, if you were a weeb born in the 1900s like myself, this is extremely exciting. Now that you have a little bit of context for the game, we'll take a good look at it after a quick word from our sponsor. Oh. What's that up there in the sky? I think it's Manta Claus. He must be here to remind everyone that if you still have some last-minute gift buying to do, that the best thing you can give someone is a good night's sleep. I know I hope I find a Manta Sleep mask under my tree. They're a necessity for the holiday season. Got a neighbor with obscenely bright Christmas lights twinkling right into your eyes when you're trying to sleep? Boom, block out 100% of light with this Manta Sleep mask. Want to fall asleep to your favorite holiday tunes like Manta Baby? The new Manta Sleep sound mask comes with built-in Bluetooth headphones, and they're razor thin to ensure comfort in any sleeping position. These masks are totally flexible with a curved design that adapts to your head to stay in place all night. Late night carolers singing off tune in your yard? Forget about them with the Manta Sleep white noise machine that surrounds you in a noise blocking shield. Even if you already have a mask, you can deck the halls with all kinds of Manta Sleep accessories. Below the video in the description, you'll see a few of these Manta Sleep products. Any purchases here will directly support the channel, and don't forget to use code EARLY for 10% off at checkout. Santa Claus might know when you're sleeping, but Manta Claus helps you get there. Huge thank you to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video. Napple Tale begins by setting a scene over a jaunty anime theme song. The night is brimming with excitement and energy. Attractions line the streets and fireworks light up the sky. It's the summer festival. The protagonist of our story is a girl described as brimming with life, full of energy, but clumsy. As it turns out, the summer festival is her favorite event of the year. But there's a problem. You see, this girl, she loves stew. She loves stew more than Gordon Ramsay loves showing his butt cheeks in Hotel Hell. And that's a lot. She gets so distracted by her delicious stew that she ends up late meeting her friends at the festival. This paints a pretty good starting picture of this character. Realizing that she's late, she tears herself away from the stew and finds her friends, and they all begin enjoying the evening together. That is, until things start getting strange. An odd, otherworldly blue creature begins following her through the festival. Suddenly, the girl falls to the floor and the world goes dark around her. Imagery of time and the seasons appear in the darkness. When she finally wakes up, there's only one path to take, a mysterious walkway made of light. She follows this light through the darkness and ends up transported to another world. Hell yeah, it's the Early Bird Isekai episode. As the girl presses on, eventually the darkness gives way to a much brighter scene, a bridge floating in the clouds. She starts hearing something calling out the name Portia. Turns out, the one calling for her is this little blue guy that was following her at the festival. But he's apparently pronouncing her name wrong. It's Porch, not Portia. She corrects him on this. The creature brushes this off and begins explaining that he is a spirit guide, and that some people might refer to him as a Grim Reaper. Right off the bat, Napple Tale opens with its young protagonist straight up dying, and the little blue creature confirming that she has indeed passed on. Porch is convinced that all of this is some kind of elaborate joke, but the little Reaper goes on to explain that in life, people have something called petals. These petals are basically parts of your soul that make you you and tie you to the earth. Porch can see that her petals are floating away freely and accepts her demise, referring to her death as lousy and lamenting that she couldn't have eaten more stew. The Reaper isn't entirely sympathetic, saying that death is a normal occurrence. It is the fate of all living things, after all. Dying is not exactly a unique experience. He says that the bridge that they're standing on is called Kie's Great Bridge, a connection between worlds. And they can't stay here forever. He must escort Porch to Napple World where she can be checked in. Porch is ushered along the bridge and taken to this mysterious world. The little spirit guide, who we learn is named Straynap, informs the mayor and minister of Napple World that he's successfully retrieved his spiritual client. Apparently, this is Straynap's first job as a Reaper, and the officials are a little bit concerned because he took an excessive amount of time to do it. And not just that, another guide had just returned with his client and escorted them to the world of deep dreams where she can rest forever. Straynap realizes quickly that if someone else had just come in with his target, that he may have accidentally killed the wrong person. But my client is right here! I brought Portia all this way, says Straynap. Ugh, for the last time! My name is Porch. Get it right, says Porch. The minister and the mayor, who is literally part frog, part car, named Mayor Frogcar, look into things and confirm that Straynap's client's name was indeed Portia, not Porch, and that Portia is actually a cat. This, of course, causes everyone to question poor Straynap's competence. With the error confirmed, Straynap agrees to help Porch return to the normal world. But she can't return without her petals, those pieces of her soul. Without them, she can't cross back over. Thus begins the journey of the iconic duo Straynap and Porch through Napple World. And let me just tell you now, this story goes to some very strange places from here. In the center of Nappletown is a large circus tent, and inside is a performing clown named Piero. Straynap is like, hey dude, I think I accidentally killed this girl, and Piero is like, LOL idiot, here, let me help you with a little old gameplay tutorial. Piero is extremely accommodating and quite charming. He reassures Porch that teaching her the ropes isn't a burden at all, and in fact, nothing but this time with her could possibly ever please him more. The conversation almost gets a little bit flirty, and Straynap is like, bruh. The tutorial teaches the basics, how to jump, how to fight, how to interact with switches, how to use certain platforms, etc. Piero then gives Porch a little gift to help her on her way. A paffet. Parfait? I'm gonna say Paffet, an adorable little creature that will follow Porch and act as a little mini pocket healer. Apparently, there are all kinds of different Paffets with various abilities to help Porch through the stages to collect. Straynap explains that when not in use, these Paffets are stored in rooms according to their type. However, much like a Pokemon team, Porch can only take a few Paffets with her at a time, 5 to be exact, so she'll need to be strategic with who she brings. Now, one thing you need to understand about Porch is that she's a certified hustler. She ponders this restriction for a moment and comes up with a genius solution. She looks Straynap dead in the eyes and says, if I lock you down here, I could take another Paffet with me instead, right? It's around here that Straynap begins to realize that he accidentally killed a crazy person, and she really does dog him the entire game. She makes plenty of jokes just to pick on him, like, I can trust Straynap with my life. And if I can be dead honest here, she really shows the little guy no mercy. Despite this, Straynap offers to let Porch share his home, you know, what with it being his fault that she's dead and everything. The downstairs of his home is his business, an ice cream parlor called 13 Ice. You see, this name is funny because in Japan, Baskin-Robbins is called 31 Ice Cream, so it's a fun little reference. Porch decides that Straynap is too long of a name and starts to call him SN. Straynap's business also apparently isn't really doing too well, because Straynap, well, he kind of sucks. I love him so much. Straynap shows Porch to her new room, and she's like, hey, thanks, I really appreciate it, but isn't it kind of suspicious that you had a spare room all set up and ready to go like this? Awfully convenient, huh? Why do you have this room? And Straynap's like, bitch, you best stop asking questions. That night in her new bed, Porch starts to really feel the weight of being homesick. She really is dead and in a different world. She starts to question if it's actually possible to get back home. Her words kind of tend to remain positive about the whole thing, but you can tell that there's a noticeable doubt deep down. The next morning, Porch wakes up and is ready to take on her self-described greatest adventure yet. Stray Nap explains that things have been strange in Napple Town lately. The town somehow doesn't experience seasons anymore. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter have all left. However, outside of the town, there are areas where the seasons are still accessible. Porch will need to navigate through these areas to find her missing soul petals and bring the seasons back to Napple Town. Now, Napple Town is a really charming place. It's completely full of memorable and really likable characters. Tons of them. I won't bring up most of them, but my favorites are Melee the shopkeeper, Jackson, the French cow with a mustache that runs a milk bar business and refers to himself as an entrepreneur, and Hope, who is a human version of a swallow that's kept metaphorically in a cage by a rich woman that won't let him migrate for the winter. Unrelated to the main story, there's a ton of side quests and goofball hijinks happening around the town. There's always something going on in Napple Town for Porch to help with, like, for example, Mayor Frogcar's car wheels getting stuck on curbs. There's also the occasional reminder around town that this is indeed a game revolving around themes of death. Near the fountain is a little fairy. The fairy is frazzled and says that she has no time to talk as she doesn't have long to live. Stray Nap points out that fairies have very short lifespans. They only live for one day, and their lives are comparable to a real-world fly. The fairy says that she fears when she dies, she'll have nowhere to go, that when she dies, she'll have nothing, and she dejectedly hopes that after this death, maybe she can find somewhere to call home. What a fleeting existence, fleeting like spring dreams and summer wishes. Why is this random fucking NPC by the fountain super depressing? What the hell? Then, of course, there's the actual levels themselves, the areas outside of town themed after seasons. Napple Tale has some elements of being an RPG, but for the most part it's a platformer. The spring season zones are pretty simple. They're not particularly difficult and just kind of fun to go through. They're vibrant, playful, and the music is upbeat and hopeful. There's an element of imagination and childlike wonder. For example, Porch being flabbergasted by the prospect of riding a giant flying fish taxi through the sky. To complement these vibes are a ton of Alice in Wonderland references. There's even a character that Porch helps named Alice. Alice is afraid to go to sleep because she hates that during the night she grows. There's a lot of allegory for youth and growing up in spring. Also, the March Hare is a pirate for some reason in this iteration. I don't know why, but he's a cool boss and his music slaps. There's also a caterpillar boss whose name is Caterpillager, which goes really fucking hard. Anyway, spring wraps up with Porch locating one of her missing petals, this one representing time. With one petal successfully retrieved, Porch is one step closer to being able to possibly return to the realm of the living. Before Porch jumps into the summer season, there's a few things around town to take note of. Firstly, while most of the inhabitants of Napple Town are helpful, kind, and likable, there's a few that don't quite fit in. Mr. Little Money is the town rich guy that hoards all of his money and is a Porch-described arrogant, greedy windbag. Then there's Gomez. Gomez rubs everyone the wrong way, and basically no one in town likes him, and they're quite vocal about it. You see, Gomez is mean to everyone, including his Paffets. He works for the Napple Town Circus and doesn't allow them to leave their cages unless they're in use. Everyone seems to think that he's up to no good, but strangely enough, he's nothing but helpful towards Porch specifically. Mysterious. There's also this little guy named Garg. Garg is never found in town, he's always lurking about the levels. Porch bumps into him in these areas frequently, and his main purpose is to pretty much just go, "I hate you and I hate the sound of your stupid pedals," before he runs off. We'll also start seeing characters mentioning Elusia, the slumbering goddess that gave life to Napple World. Supposedly. Some of the characters take her very seriously, while others just kind of think it's a myth. By this point in the game, I was thoroughly charmed by Napple Town and its inhabitants. It's strange exploring a world that's so bright, colorful, and hopeful, while at the same time it never misses a chance to remind you of death. This duality is baked into the game's design. On one hand, Porch is an adorable pink magical girl. On the other hand, she's meant to look like a wind-up toy. A toy that has a very finite amount of life in it before it stops. The game also constantly changes tone. One moment you're in the crafting room collecting all of the Paffets and some bonus psychic damage from spending too much time in there with its overly boppy music. And the next, you head on over to the chapel and it's a completely different tone. And the minister is there to remind you that everyone you've ever known and ever will know, and you yourself, will someday meet their fate and end up in the deep dream forever. It's a fun girl game. So where is all of this going? That's the question. To find out, it's time to head to summer. Summer starts out quite dreary and rainy, which is odd because summer. Turns out there's a giant Teru Bozu dressed as Sherlock wreaking havoc on summer and making it rain indefinitely. Teru Bozu are handmade weather charms that are hung outside to try and ward off rain, or if hung upside down, bring rain. Why this one is dressed as Sherlock, I am not cultured enough to understand. But he makes a lot of Teru puns, and that's cute. After defeating him and ending his reign, get it, that's a rain pun, of terror, Straynap and Porch have a conversation about how even though rainy days are wonderful and cherished, that there's a time and a place for everything and summer must have its turn. There's also a part in the summer levels where Straynap goes full Moses and just parts the Red Sea. As we all know, the parting of the Red Sea is a reference to the religiously significant tale of Beyblade.
The power of Beyblades have been used to change the course of rivers and oceans.
I know that I bring up Beyblade Moses a lot, I will continue doing that. The splitting of the sea brings about some quality dialogue. On the ocean floor, something smells not so great, perhaps a bit fishy. Porch goes so far as to describe it as smelling like actual butt. What she's smelling is the summer level's giant squid boss swiftly approaching. I just bring this boss up because I really like him and he has good dialogue. Alright, let's get crackin'. Ah, the season of summer. It sure is hot, ain't it? And the whole fight takes place because Porch calls him an octopus, not a squid. You fools, we just fought in a turtly epic battle to the death. You two gotta be squidding me. You're too sophisticated for your own good. I cannot believe I lost to you. Good boy! However, despite defeating the bosses and bringing Summer back to Napple Town, Porch still needs to find her petal. The final portion of Summer is a Napple World version of the Summer Festival. The fireworks booming in the sky are scaring Jackson's milk-producing cow, which honestly is kind of a Pluto and Goofy situation. Like, why is one of them a milk-producing cow and the other one is like a person cow? Now, summer ends up being a little tougher than spring. Pierrot has even set up a gauntlet of festival minigames that need to be beaten. But with a little persistence, the cow is saved and the petal is found. Summer has a bit more of a mature feeling to it. This isn't ever a tough game, but the difficulty level does go up. The encounters and music are a little bit more intense. Even the themes mature, like helping a bar owner save his business rather than helping a child fall asleep. If you're starting to put together that each season is a representation of life stages, you would be correct. Spring represents simple childhood, summer is fun and silly, but also very hot and more difficult. And autumn, oh god. The themes getting a bit more adult definitely hit the hardest in autumn. You literally fight a banker over mortgages. See, now that's an adult struggle. While spring and summer represent growing up, autumn hits the narrative tone like a truck. The music actually starts slowing down and becomes very nostalgic sounding. There's a character in town called Cecile. Porch learns that Cecile has become withdrawn and isolated. She no longer finds interest or joy in anything and has completely stopped going outside. Straynap points out that she used to love tending to her garden, but she's become so consumed with depression that she's neglected it in favor of staying inside all day. For the first time, the game presents a level that's dark, dreary, and ominous. The enemies turn from toy horses to darker things like skeletons, wasps, and demonic masks. And this mask is fucked up. He tries to kill a treant, and the treant looks horrified and screams the entire time you fight. And it can die. And I just gotta point out, the music goes super hard. But just wait, we've got one more autumn petal to go, and it is arguably the most sad and depressing petal of them all. Now, it's important to note that each character in Napple Town has an alternate version of themselves. a reflection of them that lives within the seasons. Cecile, who's still severely depressed, walks in and cryptically says, "I don't need anything else. I never did," before walking into a mirror. Porch and Straynap are obviously concerned about this and visit her autumn reflection to try and figure out what exactly is going on. Cecile's seasonal self is old and not doing well. Cecile is mentally stuck in the past. She's convinced herself that Porch's pedal might be able to help her return to a better time. She wears a mask that literally has rose-tinted glasses. She's struggling with a profound grief about time moving on even when she wishes it wouldn't. She wants to go back so badly because time took things from her, as it does all of us. Time took people she loved, it took things she cared about, and it took priceless moments that can never come back. She wants to go back to the past so badly that she can't see the present. She's almost completely unresponsive, lost in her nostalgic grief. She retreats further into the mirror, and Porch and Straynap know that they must follow her. Straynap says that humans are strange because they tend to build many labyrinths for themselves, and Cecile has done just that. She's mentally trapped herself in a cycle of her own thoughts. She's so focused on what she's lost that she can't see what she has now. Straynap says that those who travel at night are lost without the stars. Cecile feels as though she's lost in total darkness in the night. Porch understands that in Cecile's life, she can become a star and vows to bring her back. Cecile begins trying to convince Porch that life was better way back when. Then she starts sharing memories. She misses being able to hold her father's hand and reminisces about trying on tons and tons of dresses. Porch understands that it wouldn't quite be the same, but says that she would look forward to trying on dresses with her. Cecile remembers family dinners and the way that everyone used to be together. Porch hopes to share a meal with her soon. She remembers how much she admired and respected her father. Porch lets her know that her father is still loved and carries on through her. She remembers a horse, a beautiful chestnut colt that carried her and comforted her. Porch relates and tells her that she had a friend like that, a neighborhood cat that was born in the same year she was. Cecile remembers and yearns for an old beautiful garden where she used to spend her time. Porch reminds her that she has a beautiful garden full of flowers in front of her house. She remembers birthday parties she used to have, her family coming together, having fun and celebrating. Porch simply responds, "Well then, let's have a party together." Cecile begins to realize that she's given up on life too soon. Sure, some things in the past are gone, but obviously there are things that she can enjoy in the present. She might not be able to have those dinners and parties with her family anymore, but there are still people to care about and spend time with. Sometimes remembering the past can feel like grief, but with Porch showing her that just because things are different doesn't mean that there's nothing left, Cecile promises to try and look at her cherished memories fondly rather than becoming consumed by them. Alright, look, maybe I'm just a tremendous sap, but this segment really got me. Obviously, I'm a very nostalgic person myself, or I wouldn't be making videos about these old games all the time. Sometimes it's really difficult for me to accept that certain phases of life have passed by, never to be returned to. But, as Straynap put it, we're never truly lost in the dark as long as we can see some stars. And if we look hard enough, there are always stars. Thanks, little blue guy and magical girl from a forgotten Dreamcast game, for comforting me and making me feel something. Also, I'm gonna keep saying it, this music is peak. My only fate, the time must go with it, must go with it, the fate. Winter becomes even more chaotic, with a lot of themes of arriving at a destination. The winter reflection of Pierrot appears near a large train. He instills curiosity in Porch by asking where could this train be going. When she asks where it goes, he refuses to answer, telling her that the way life works is that she must hop aboard the train and see for herself. Pierrot asks, "Don't you want to see the end of the road with your own two eyes?" Straynap seems to catch on that all of this end of the road talk in consideration with the fact that they're about to collect Porch's final pedal is a bit ominous. Curiosity eventually gets the better of Porch and she jumps onto the train, only to realize that the journey it takes her on won't be so easy. The train ride is a series of bosses, each on a different car. They all have their own abilities, and I'm sure I'm reading way too far into things, but there are 4 bosses, like 4 seasons, 4 life stages that the game is commenting on. And eventually, the train ride ends, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. Straynap, again being the one that's a little bit more in tune to the symbolism of it all, says that maybe the ride was never intended to have a set destination in the first place. With all of this coming together, it brings Straynap to his own realization of how life works, and he gets forlorn. He thinks to himself, "I'm sorry, Porch, still I guess it wouldn't make sense for a mortal being to stay in this world forever." I'm starting to get a little worried that this is gonna be sad. Back in Nappletown, Porch starts telling all of the townsfolk how at first she felt that she was brought here completely by mistake. But now that she's experienced this world, she's happy to have come here and has made so many wonderful memories that she doesn't ever want to forget. She cherishes all of her new friendships, but still wants to find the last of her petals so that she can return home. Gotta get that delicious stew! Now, when I say that winter gets more harsh and the game matures as it goes on, I am not kidding. We went from Alice in Wonderland to a squid that makes fish puns to a giant ice goddess with her tits out that tries to crush you with an entire army. And this is a really cool boss. It's a fun fight. This whole game is cool. I really like it. There's like an entire military and a bunch of lasers chasing you. And after the fight, Porch and Strainap realize that this is it. They've collected all of the petals that she needs to go home. In the chapel, the minister says he will reopen the gate to Kie's Great Bridge and reconnect Nappletown to the real world for Porch to pass through. Mayor Frogcar stops her just before she goes to hold a goodbye party and take one final group photo of everyone together. The journey across the bridge back to the real world is long, and it's suddenly cut short by Piero, who knocks down Porch out of nowhere. He says he's surprised that Strainap as a spirit guide could be so dumb, and hits him with one of the harshest burns I've ever heard. Is your name really Strainap? Or Stray Thought? Porch is offended by this and is like, hey, you can't just call Strainap stupid. I mean, sure, he's a little stupid, but... And then the game for some reason gives you some dialogue options. One of the options is to lay it on even thicker and call him really, really dumb. I clicked this just to see what happened, and literally the only thing that happens is Strainap just looks sad, so I save scummed immediately to change it to he's my best friend. Piero starts blabbering on about how the thing that SN is dumb about is that he doesn't understand a, quote, complete Piero and his mission. He says that he'll be taking a tuition payment for serving as the game's tutorial, which is honestly kind of based. Then he knocks Porch over again and runs away. Porch and SN agree that Piero is being kind of creepy and acting strange, but they continue across the bridge. Until that is, they realize that they can go no further. It appears that Piero has stolen away all of Porch's petals, and as we know, she can't cross the bridge without them. The only option is to head all the way back to Nappletown. On the way back, the pair stumble across a picture that looks eerily just like the farewell photo of the town, except something isn't quite right. Everyone in this version of the photo are all Pieros. And it turns out everyone back in town has actually turned into Piero as well. The minister in the chapel is now a puppet of Piero and states that he is the great and complete one that will save the world of all of its woes. When Porch heads outside from the chapel, strong, colorful circus spotlights follow her everywhere she goes. This is a really cool effect, and it actually kind of made me feel uneasy. The entire town is just Pieros saying things about the goddess Eleusia needing to go back to sleep, and that one must travel through Nappletown to go to the deep sleep forever. SN finds notes from Piero hinting at him trying to spark a cosmic rebirth and that he'll turn the entire town into his own dream. He'll turn everyone into Pieros, never to suffer or stray. Porch and Strainap create a camera that can photograph dreams to un-Pieroize the town. This camera basically retakes the picture, but of Porch's dream where everyone is back to normal. Yes, this is kind of convoluted and weird, but whatever. And finally it's time to confront the real Piero himself. He's in the circus tent with a giant sand recreation of Nappletown. It's definitely not creepy or weird. He has a little monologue with himself about how Nappletown is on the brink of collapse. Porch runs in and accuses him of stealing her petals, and he goes on a philosophical rant about how nothing is real actually, and that she probably wouldn't even be able to tell if the petals are really hers, or if they could even possibly be his. He refers to her as Porch Eleusia, like the goddess. And once again, she gets upset that no one in Nappletown seems to be able to pronounce her name correctly, as it's Porch Arcia, not Eleusia. Piero apologizes and says that the names are just too similar and that he associates Eleusia with Porch. He also says that while everyone has 6 petals, he's attempting to remix a fabled 7th petal. But he needs Porch's cooperation to be able to do it. Naturally, she refuses, and he attacks with a surprising pair, Gomez and Garg, who have apparently been his henchmen this entire time. Piero is quite an unhinged villain. He says a lot of strange things, like, for example, in regards to being attacked by Gomez and Garg, Porch tells him that 2 against 1 is unfair. You know, because Strainap is kind of useless and he doesn't fight. Piero responds, saying that this unfairness of the fight is love and affection. And as he orders the first attack, he tells her to take his love for her with open arms. Bro's toxic. The fight takes place inside of the miniature Napple town made of sand, and the two remain trapped there so that they don't cause further problems. But after the confrontation, Straynap seems distracted. He mentions something about the Great Awakening, but he brushes it off and does his best to go back to acting normal. But something is definitely off with him. With the residents of Napple Town saved from being clowns and the henchmen defeated, Porch and Straynap head for the bridge to try and cross over one last time. Just as Porch is about to pass through, Straynap suddenly becomes serious and stops. He says that he has one final request. Well, when you return to the real world and watch the fireworks, I'm scared you won't remember my name, and that all you'll have left of us is some vague memory. No, something merely subconscious, like a phrase from a book in the back of your head. So please, tuck away a tiny fragment of us, of me, deep within your heart. Porch is kind of like, bitch, what are you all of a sudden being so serious for? It's your blunder that got me into this whole mess in the first place. Of course I'll remember you forever. No one for a second thought that Porch would actually get through the portal without one final appearance from Piero, who stops her just before she reaches it. He states that he absolutely cannot allow her to pass. He needs her and the petals to create his seventh petal to make himself complete. He says that people hurt because they have emotions inside that cannot be expressed, and that the way that the world works, where seasons are sometimes tucked and hidden away, is an incompleteness. He loathes this incompleteness in himself, in Porch, and in everything. Porch expresses that incompleteness in humanity and the world bring its own kind of beauty. The fact that the seasons come and go is what makes them special. The fact that our feelings, friends, and lives are fleeting is exactly what makes them so precious. Porch fully admits to her flaws and imperfections, but still resists. Piero vows to become a god if he must to free his world. He tells Porch that if she were to return to the real world, that Napple world would flicker and vanish. Everyone at all of Napple Town would cease to exist. Everyone, even Straynap. Piero asks her if that's what she would really want. She looks to Straynap and is like, hey, come on, this guy's crazy, he's just making shit up, right? Straynap hesitates to speak, and Piero laughs, saying that because Straynap is a death god, that he cannot lie. He admits that it's true, that if Porch returns home, Napple Town will most likely disappear, but that he's alright with it, because she promised to keep a tiny part of him and Napple World in her memories and her heart forever. This triggers the fuck out of Piero, who is like, what do you mean a tiny part? I want to exist and be complete. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's kind of fair that Piero wants to exist. The final boss is cool. Piero has multiple forms and phases, and it's a decently long fight. Piero uses all kinds of tricks and the powers of time and the seasons to try and stop Porch. Neither of them are willing to back down or give up. And for a moment, Porch starts to doubt if Piero can really be defeated. Straynap tells her that she must use the seventh petal for herself in order to defeat him. He tells her that he's going to help her use it against Piero in one final attack, and to hit him with everything she's got when he gives the signal. At this point, Piero starts getting a little bit creepy and is like, it will all disappear, don't you understand, Illusia? Napple, your friends, all of it. Ever faithful Straynap says he believes in Porch and readies the attack, knowing that if it's successful, it will be the end of him. They're out of time together, and Porch can't stay in Napple World forever. Straynap gives her one final look and reminds her that they're in this together, and that he knows he'll be okay even if he stops existing because she promised to tuck a little piece of him away in her heart forever. And just like that, Porch's adventure in Napple World is finished. She wakes up in the real world and sees some familiar faces around the summer festival that probably may have inspired some of the people that she dreamed up in Napple Town. The dialogue and lyrics of the song playing in the ending all reinforce themes of accepting the cycle of life, that all things eventually must come to an end, the seasons, our dreams, and even our lives, and that sometimes growing older is really difficult. One part of the closing lyric says, what once was small will grow up someday, as they say, but no one said we'd lose our wings and still have to fly. It's a fun girl game. I might be completely insane, but I also can't help but feel like at times, the game implies that all of this applies to it as well. Worlds inside of video games are similar to dreams. When we shut off the game and walk away, or wake up, everything in that world stops existing. But even if they're not real or we're no longer in that world, it can still mean something to us. But I think that the point of Napple Tale is that it wants to remind us that while dreams, nostalgia, and fictional worlds can be meaningful, it's important not to get stuck in them. It's important to remember that there's a time and a place for everything, and that the real world is ultimately the most important thing. and that life there, while incomplete and imperfect, is beautiful. Our time here in the real world is very limited, and Napple Tale is a reminder of that. Napple Tale doesn't want us to embrace death, but know that it's coming so that we can embrace life. What I'm saying is, this game is basically just Persona 3, but for the Dreamcast. Also, after the credits, the game just straight up ends with a Cowboy Bebop reference, and I think that's really cool. Thanks so much for watching and checking out the grossly underrated Napple Tale with me. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, leaving a comment, and checking out my links below. We've got a fun Discord server, a Ko-fi if you're feeling generous and want to send a tip, and a link to my second channel. I'm gonna be playing awful games over there. We need a little more filler episodes around here, you know what I'm saying? Hee hoo goodbye!
The story is over, but sometimes it's under, which makes me just smile and wonder. I float down the river of freshly made hot tea to the future is far beyond.